Strangers Become Lovers, Part 1. Chapter 1. Baby in the Alley. The cry of a baby reached Sophia's ears. She froze, head tilting slightly toward the sound. Silence. Maybe she had imagined it. She turned to walk back to her car, then the cry came again. Sophia pivoted sharply on her heels and followed the faint sound down a narrow alley. The air was damp from the recent rain, her heels clicking softly against the wet concrete. The cry grew clearer, fragile but unmistakable. There, beneath a torn piece of cardboard, half hidden behind a dumpster, something stirred. Sophia crouched and lifted the cardboard carefully. Her heart stopped. A baby, no older than 2 or 3 months, wrapped in old blankets and tucked under layers of cardboard. The tiny face peeked up at her, eyes wide, and a small hand reached toward her. Her chest tightened painfully. She leaned down to scoop the baby up, but a cold hand clamped around her wrist. Startled, Sophia turned. The pile of cardboard shifted, revealing a frail woman beneath it. Her voice was weak, barely more than a whisper. "We're fine. She just woke up and needs." Before she could finish, her body went limp. Sophia lunged forward to catch her before her head struck the concrete. Panic flickered in her chest as she glanced around the dark alley, no one in sight. And then Sofia Varga, the notoriously cold CEO of Varga International, did something wildly out of character. She gathered the baby in her arms and hurried to her car, where her driver was waiting. Without hesitation, she returned to the alley, lifted the unconscious woman into her arms, light as air, and carried her to the car. After settling the woman on the back seat and covering her with a blanket, Sophia slid into the front seat beside the baby. "Drive home," she instructed. The driver obeyed, glancing in the mirror, watching as the usually icy CEO cradled the tiny child close against her expensive suit. Sophia pulled out her phone. "Anya," she said, her tone clipped yet urgent. "I need everything for a 2-month-old baby: formula, blankets, clothes. And bring chicken broth. Enough for someone who's been starving. And call Dr. Vance." The car filled with silence, broken only by the shallow breathing of the unconscious woman and the soft cooing of the baby. When they arrived at her brownstone, Anya was waiting at the door, arms full of supplies. "Bring her to the guest room, Marcus," Sophia instructed. Her bodyguard carried the woman inside and laid her gently on the crisp sheets of the guest bed. Anya drew a bath and ushered them out, tending to the woman with gentle hands. Athena stirred weakly, feeling hands removing her damp clothes. "No," she murmured, "please. You need to get warm," came the calm reply. The heat of the bath enveloped her, and for a moment she let it sink into her bones. Then she bolted upright, panic cutting through the haze. The woman's resistance melted as the hot water enveloped her, steam curling around her face. For a moment, peace. Then panic. "My baby." "She's safe," Anya assured her, pressing a hand to her shoulder. "The doctor's with her. She's being fed. You'll see her soon." Tears welled in the woman's eyes. "Thank you," she mouthed, before sinking back into the bath. Later, wrapped in a soft robe, her hair damp and clinging to her neck, she followed the faint sound of her baby's cooing. Her bare feet made no sound on the polished floors. She found Sophia in the living room, seated by the fireplace, feeding the baby from a bottle. The sight stopped her breath. Sophia's expression, always carved from marble, was softened by the firelight, uncertain, almost tender. The mother, Athena, though Sophia did not yet know her name, crossed the room in a rush and took her daughter into her arms. Tears spilled freely down her cheeks as she clutched the small body close. Relief. Grief. Love. Everything she'd held back on the streets poured out at once. And then her body gave way. Sophia saw it happen, the way Athena's knees buckled, the baby slipping. She lunged forward, catching them both, guiding them gently onto the couch. The room fell still except for the crackle of the fire. Sophia looked down at the woman and child in her arms, 2 strangers who, somehow, had just rearranged the rhythm of her world. Chapter 2. The Stranger's House. Sunlight spilled across the floor when Athena finally opened her eyes. A week has passed. The unfamiliar room made her heart race. She pushed herself up, but a strong hand stopped her. A voice, low and measured, cut through her haze. "Take your time. Don't rush." She turned toward the voice, vision still hazy, until it focused and froze. Across the room, Sophia stood, an enigmatic figure bathed in the morning glow. Athena's mind swirled. Of all the cities, of all the places she could wake to, it had to be here, in the home of Sofia Varga, the ruthless CEO whose face she had seen on billboards for years. A woman who belonged to a world of power and wealth that seemed galaxies away from her own desperate existence. "Great. Just freaking great," she muttered under her breath. "Where's my daughter?" she demanded. Sophia's expression softened for a moment. Something about the woman's face stirred a memory she couldn't place. Athena tried to sit up, but her limbs protested. Hunger, exhaustion, and the ceaseless tension of the streets had hollowed her. A small, fragile sound reached her ears, the gentle cooing of her daughter. Athena's chest tightened. Sophia's eyes softened, though only for a fraction of a second. "She's safe. I'll have the staff attend to you. Whatever you need, ask." She stepped across the room and gently handed Athena the bundle wrapped in warm blankets. Athena's fingers trembled as she held her daughter close. The baby's warmth seeped into her, melting the sharp edges of fear and hunger just enough for her to breathe. Tears stung her eyes, not just for relief, but for every night she had scavenged, every bottle of milk she had managed to ration, every moment she had felt powerless. She sank back onto the bed, cradling the tiny life in her arms, letting the tears come. The long months on the streets, the cold alleys, the uncertainty, the relentless weight of survival, all of it fell away in one fragile, perfect instant. Sophia watched her quietly, noting the way Athena's hands clutched the baby, how the tension in her shoulders slowly released. She had seen many kinds of vulnerability, many kinds of power, but nothing had prepared her for this. This was raw, desperate, and beautiful all at once. Athena placed her daughter back into the crib and gazed at her sleeping daughter, emotion breaking through the numbness. She sank to her knees beside the crib and wept deep, shaking sobs that had waited too long. She cried for every hungry night, every empty day, every moment she'd failed to protect the child now breathing softly before her. Athena Valeria, daughter of the late Gustav Valeria, once heir to a vast fortune, now a woman who had lost everything. To understand how she came to this, we must go back to the beginning. At 23, Athena had earned her degree in agricultural science and was preparing to co-manage the family ranch. But after her father's sudden death, the attorney John Travis, a supposed family friend, sat across from her in her father's study, venom lacing his voice. "Just sign, Athena. It will be easier for you. Your father left debts, and the collectors are already knocking." She stared at the papers, jaw tight. "John, I can't. This ranch is my father's legacy. I'll find another way." He rose, face hardening. "You have 6 months. Then the walls close in." 6 months later, she'd done the impossible. Every debt paid. Every book balanced. Valencia Pride, their ranch saved. And then she walked away. Paid the workers. Closed the doors. Left one loyal manager to keep the place breathing. She wanted to rebuild herself, to breathe again, but instead, she unraveled. Days became weeks of isolation until her mind and body gave way. She woke in a hospital bed with no memory of who she was. Released into a world of strangers, she drifted from diners to shelters to the streets. One night, the world turned darker. Cornered by men who saw her as sport. And when she found herself pregnant, she couldn't bring herself to end the fragile life inside her. Her daughter became her reason to keep breathing. 3 months old now, and Athena still had no memory of her past. She had seen Sofia Varga's face on billboards across the city, the ruthless billionaire, untouchable and cold. And now here she was, sleeping beneath her roof. Athena looked down at her child, then out at the garden beyond the window. Roses, lilies, baby's breath, and tulips danced in the breeze. The world looked alive, but inside her, darkness still ruled. She turned back to her sleeping daughter, tears streaking her face, and made the most painful decision of her life. She will stay here for now, for her daughter. Chapter 3. Life happened. Sophia left the office early that day, a rare decision even for someone who bent rules to her will. Having Athena and her baby in her brownstone was unconventional, unprecedented, yet the tiny hand in hers, the faint cooing of a baby, had stirred something in her chest she had never allowed herself to feel. The drive home was quiet, the city moving in oblivion around them. Sophia's thoughts were pulled back to the alley, the cold rain, the weight of the baby, and the frail mother she had carried upstairs. She had seen desperation before, but never like this, never so raw, so human, so achingly vulnerable. When she arrived, the baby slept in the crib, a soft bundle of warmth and life. But Athena was nowhere in the guest room. Sophia's heart clenched for a moment, panic rising. For the first time in her life, Sophia felt something human stirring, a tenderness she had long forgotten. "Where's the woman who is in this room?" she asked her housekeeper sharply. The older woman dropped her gaze. "She's in the garden, Miss Varga." Sophia moved to the window. There, on a garden bench, sat the stranger, knees drawn to her chest, hair falling over her shoulders like a dark curtain. The sun haloed her, casting a faint glow on her crown. Sophia remembered her eyes when they'd met briefly, deep blue, like storm-tossed seas. Then she caught sight of her in the garden. Athena sat on a wooden bench, knees drawn up to her chest, her long dark hair veiling her face like a shadow she could hide in. The sun fell across her shoulders, catching her in a halo of light that belied the storm inside her. Sophia watched silently. Even from here, she could see the deep exhaustion, the weight Athena carried not just on her body but in her eyes. "How long has she been out there?" Sophia asked the housekeeper softly. "Since after lunch, ma'am," came the whispered reply. Sophia nodded and returned to the baby, her fingers trailing over the soft blankets as she watched the tiny chest rise and fall. A rare, quiet smile touched her lips. She leaned closer, whispering softly to the child. "What is chasing your mother, little one?" Then, with a nod to the housekeeper, she indicated that the formula should be prepared. Sophia turned back toward the garden, careful to move slowly, to avoid startling the woman who had carried herself with such fragile courage through a week of unconscious survival. Standing beside Athena, Sophia spoke gently. "How are you feeling?" Athena's head snapped up, eyes meeting gray eyes that seemed to pierce through the layers of fear and fatigue. For a long moment, she did not answer, only stared. Then, slowly, she looked away, focusing on the flowers swaying in the soft breeze. I am alive." "That should be enough for now," she murmured, voice raw. Sophia nodded and took a seat beside her on the bench, leaving space, but staying close. "Sophia Varga. And you are?" Athena blinked back, tears biting her lip. "If I knew, I would tell you," she admitted softly. Sophia frowned slightly, her head tilting as she studied Athena. "What do you mean?" "I have no memory of who I am," Athena said, her voice quivering. "I woke up a year ago in a hospital bed, with no memory. So, if I knew who I was, I would tell you." Sophia's hand ran through her hair as she considered this. One eyebrow lifted. Then, with careful deliberation, she said, "Do you have a name you use?" Athena rested her cheek on her knees, shaking her head. Tears ran freely. Sophia reached out instinctively to wipe them, then stopped herself, respecting the fragile distance. Finally, she stood and walked to the edge of the garden, speaking over her shoulder without turning back. "For now, I will keep calling you Liza, until we can find out who you are." Athena lifted her head slightly, faintly nodding. The name was temporary, yet it offered something, a thread to hold onto in this new, strange reality. Sophia returned to the bench, sitting a respectful distance away. Athena's eyes drifted to the room, and through the window, she can see her baby, sleeping peacefully, finally safe, finally fed, and in that fragile silence, the beginnings of trust, of recognition, of quiet companionship began to take root. They moved quietly back to the guest room. Outside, the garden bloomed in reckless beauty: roses, lilies, tulips, baby's breath, a stark contrast to the darkness Athena carried. But within this space, under the gentle light and the watchful eyes of the woman who had saved her and her child, there was a tentative promise. Life, no matter how harsh, could start again. Chapter 4: Cautious Steps. The morning stretched lazily across the brownstone, sunlight drifting in like a quiet witness. Athena sat cross-legged on the guest room floor, her daughter nestled in the crook of her arm, eyes half closed in contented sleep. She had fed her, changed her, and tucked her carefully into the crib again, but the small movements left her body trembling, exhausted beyond description. Sophia hovered nearby, silent, patient, watching. She didn't intrude, not yet. Athena's walls were thick, built from months of fear and betrayal, and Sophia had learned quickly that pressing too hard would only send her retreating further into herself. The room smelled faintly of lavender and clean linens, a stark contrast to the damp, grimy alleys Athena had known. She flexed her fingers, the lines of tension in her shoulders a permanent reminder of what she had endured. Hunger, cold, the endless march of nights spent keeping her daughter alive, and the invisible scars that twisted in her chest like barbed wire. Sophia spoke softly, carefully, her voice threading through the silence like a tentative hand. "Liza, would you like some breakfast? We have porridge, fruit, eggs." Athena's eyes flickered to her, wary. I'm not hungry," she muttered, though her stomach protested fiercely. She pressed a hand against it reflexively, her pride and shame warring with the need she could not deny. "You don't have to answer right away," Sophia added gently, retreating a step. She carried a tray anyway, just in case, and placed it on the table nearby, letting the steam curl upward like a promise of warmth. Athena didn't reach for it. She merely watched, tight-lipped, body rigid, eyes flicking to the baby's crib every few seconds, as if checking the child's safety would make up for the days she had failed to provide. Sophia took a slow breath and sat on the edge of the bed, far enough to respect Athena's distance, but close enough to let her presence be known. "You've been through so much," she said quietly. "You're still here. You survived. And you saved her." Athena's hands tightened around her knees. She didn't respond immediately. Words felt dangerous. Trust even more so. Her voice came out low, hoarse, fragile. I didn't have a choice." "No," Sophia agreed, almost reverently. "You didn't. But look at her, she's here. Because of you." The baby stirred, tiny hands grasping at the blanket. Athena's gaze softened for a moment, her maternal instinct overpowering her fear. She crossed the room slowly and lifted the child from the crib, holding her close. The baby's warmth seeped into Athena's chest, steadying her shaking limbs, giving her a small measure of control over a life she could protect. Sophia's eyes followed every movement, noticing the tension in Athena's shoulders, the trembling hands, the tight line of her jaw. She resisted the urge to touch her, to smooth a strand of hair from her face. She had learned that every gesture had to be earned, not taken. Minutes passed. The silence wasn't empty. It was dense with unspoken words, with the shared knowledge of pain and survival. Sophia finally ventured again, softer this time. "You can rest if you want. I'll make sure she's safe." Athena's grip on the baby didn't loosen. "I can't," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "I can't just leave her." "I know," Sophia said gently, almost a whisper herself. "And you won't have to. Not here. Not with me." Athena's head bowed slightly, her hair falling over her face. The simple promise carried weight, a life where she didn't have to fight alone, a quiet protection that didn't demand repayment. Her body, exhausted and weary, began to relax in the smallest way. A shift so subtle it might have been missed by anyone but the most observant. Time passed in measured, slow moments. Athena fed the baby again, changed her, and even allowed Sophia to bring her a warm blanket afterward. Every small action was a negotiation, a fragile step forward. Trust was not given, it was taken slowly, painfully, step by step. And Sophia had the patience to let her take it. By afternoon, Athena found herself sitting near Sophia, sharing quiet words about her daughter's habits, her needs, the little quirks she noticed. Small laughter escaped her once, the sound brittle but real. Sophia's presence remained calm, grounding, never intrusive, simply there to witness the fragile bloom of trust. For the first time in months, Athena allowed herself a breath she didn't have to steal. Not entirely. Not fully. But enough to know that, maybe, just maybe, she could survive here. That her daughter could thrive. That she could allow someone like Sophia, to be a part of that life. And outside, in the garden, the roses and lilies and tulips continued to sway in the breeze, a quiet reminder that life, relentless and beautiful, moved forward even when the heart was bruised and the past loomed heavy. Chapter 5: First Breakthroughs. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the brownstone garden, the light soft and golden as if it were deliberately holding back, giving the world a moment to breathe. Athena sat on the stone steps, her daughter asleep against her chest, the small rhythmic rise and fall of her tiny body a fragile metronome for Athena's own heartbeat. Sophia lingered nearby, arms crossed loosely, watching. She said nothing at first, letting Athena occupy the space on her own terms. There was a tentative tension in the air, a recognition of pain and fear and survival that neither dared speak aloud. Finally, Athena spoke, her voice low, brittle, as if testing whether it could survive the words. How long have I been here? Nearly 2 weeks, Sophia said softly. She kept her tone neutral, careful, knowing that too much eagerness could scare Athena back into retreat. You've slept most of the time. We wanted you to recover. Athena's fingers curled into the fabric of the blanket wrapped around her daughter. I didn't know anyone could be this kind, she admitted, voice cracking. She refused to look at Sophia, fearing the intensity of her own vulnerability. Sophia stepped a little closer, but still kept her distance. Kindness isn't weakness, Liza. It's deliberate. You earn it by surviving. By protecting her. You've done more than most could even imagine. Athena's lips pressed into a thin line. Her jaw tightened. She wanted to argue, to deny it, to protect the fragile shell of pride she had left, but her eyes betrayed her. The small flicker of acknowledgement was enough. For a long moment, they simply existed in the same space. Athena adjusting the blanket around her daughter, her gaze drifting toward the horizon of the garden. Sophia's eyes traced the curve of Athena's back, the tension in her shoulders, the faint tremor in her hands. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She waited. The silence broke when Athena finally lifted her head, eyes meeting Sophia's with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. Why are you doing this? Sophia's lips curved into the faintest smile. Because it's the right thing to do. Because someone had to. Because I could. Her voice softened, not pleading, just stating a fact. And because I don't believe anyone survives what you've been through and should be left alone. Athena blinked, unsteady. No one had ever spoken like that to her. No one had recognized the weight she carried, the battles she had endured, and the raw fragility beneath it. She wanted to look away, to retreat, to protect herself. But something, a quiet force, patient and insistent, held her gaze. Minutes passed, then hours. Sophia helped with the baby, fetching blankets, adjusting the crib, offering a bottle. Every interaction was cautious, respectful, deliberate. Athena allowed it. Not fully, not yet, but enough to let her daughter rest safely in her care while she observed. At one point, Athena's voice came again, softer this time, curious rather than defensive. Do you have children? Sophia shook her head slowly. No, but I understand them. I've learned a lot from observation, patience, timing, protecting the fragile, and sometimes letting them be brave on their own. Athena's gaze lingered. That small confession, almost casual, almost imperceptible, allowed a tiny crack to form in her armor. She studied Sophia's face, noting the quiet strength, the deliberate care in her movements, the way she didn't push, but simply existed as a stable presence. The afternoon waned, and Athena found herself speaking more freely, though cautiously, sharing small details about her daughter, habits, coos, the way her tiny hands fisted instinctively in sleep. Sophia listened, interjecting only to offer gentle reassurance, to validate, to share a smile or a nod. And somewhere between the sunlight and the quiet, between a coo and a whispered word, Athena realized something terrifying and beautiful. She was beginning to trust. Slowly, painfully, hesitantly. But trust was there, like a fragile shoot pushing through the rubble of months of fear and pain. For the first time in a long time, Athena allowed herself a breath that wasn't stolen, a pause that wasn't dictated by survival, a sliver of hope. And Sophia, quietly watching, allowed herself to hope as well, that Liza and her daughter could belong here, even if only in the tentative, delicate beginnings of something that would take time to grow. Chapter 6: Trust and Conflict. Evening fell softly over the brownstone, painting the garden and rooms in muted gold and shadow. Athena sat on the floor, her daughter nestled against her chest, eyes drifting shut, tiny breaths like whispers against her collarbone. The world beyond the walls felt distant, unreal, a contrast to the alleyways, the cold, the hunger, and the unending threat of violence that had marked every day of her life for the past year. Sophia entered quietly, carrying a small tray with tea and a few soft biscuits. She set it on the low table without a word, letting the quiet settle between them. Athena didn't move at first, as if her body had forgotten the simple gestures of comfort, of care. Finally, Sophia spoke, her voice calm, steady, unyielding in its gentleness. "Liza, would you like to sit with me for a while? Just talk. Or not talk. Just be here." Athena's fingers tightened around her daughter, instinctively protective. I don't. I can't," she whispered, her voice fragile, hesitant. Fear lingered like a shadow she couldn't shake, the memory of the alley, the hands that had hurt her, the nights she had spent fighting just to survive. Sophia knelt slowly, careful to stay at Athena's level, careful not to reach out too soon. I know it's hard. I don't want to push you. I just want to be here. For her. And for you if you let me." Athena's eyes flicked to her, a mixture of defiance and longing. She wanted to push away, to hide her weakness, to protect herself from disappointment. But the way Sophia's eyes held hers, patient, unwavering, not demanding but present, stirred something deep inside her, something she had thought long dead. A silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken memories, with grief, with fear. Athena's lips quivered, and for a moment she allowed herself to speak, small, cautious words. I don't know how to trust. Not like this. Not anyone." Sophia nodded slowly, as if she had expected nothing less. "I understand," she said softly. "And I don't want you to trust me right away. I just want you to know. I won't hurt you. I won't let anyone hurt her, and I won't let anyone hurt you. Not here." Athena swallowed hard, the words colliding with memories she had buried deep. The sensation of safety was unfamiliar, almost frightening. She shifted slightly, her daughter stirring in her arms, tiny eyes blinking up at her. Athena's heart clenched with both love and fear, love for the life she was protecting, fear of allowing anyone near that life again. Sophia reached out slowly, her hand hovering near Athena's, but not touching. "You can take your time," she said quietly. "I'll wait. I'll stay." Athena's breath hitched. She wanted to recoil, but a part of her, a part that had been starved for human connection, leaned toward the promise in Sophia's words. She let the smallest inch of herself move closer, just enough to feel Sophia's presence without losing control. The baby cooed softly, a gentle reminder of the life Athena held, fragile, precious, demanding protection. Sophia watched her carefully, never speaking over her, never intruding. Every small gesture was deliberate, measured, meant to show trustworthiness without forcing it. Hours passed in quiet companionship. Athena spoke in halting sentences about the day's routines, the little habits she had observed in her daughter. Sophia responded gently, validating, encouraging, not pushing but guiding. And slowly, painfully, Athena felt her walls begin to crack, Not gone, not gone yet, but showing the faintest possibility of letting someone in. By nightfall, Athena allowed herself to rest her head lightly against Sophia's shoulder while the baby slept between them, the room bathed in the soft glow of lamps. A tentative warmth spread through her chest, trust, fragile and trembling, but alive. Outside, the garden faded into darkness, stars twinkling quietly, a silent witness to the beginning of something neither of them could yet name. A bond was forming, delicate as glass, yet strong enough to endure the tremors of the past. And for the first time in months, Athena felt, if only for a moment, that maybe she could breathe without fear. Chapter 7: Shadows of the Past. The following morning, sunlight filtered lazily through the tall windows, dust motes dancing in the golden glow. Athena sat cross-legged by the fireplace, her daughter in her lap, eyes wide and alert, observing the flicker of flames. Sophia entered quietly, as always, with her usual air of deliberate patience, but beneath the calm, her mind was working, calculating, probing. Sophia had watched Athena, listened to her, learned the small rhythms of her life over the past week. She noticed the hesitations, the flinches, the way her gaze darted toward shadows, toward closed doors, as if the world was constantly threatening to collapse. Athena's past, the pain she carried, was a story whispered in her movements, in her silences. Sophia wanted to understand it, not to pry, but to protect her, to meet her where she truly was. It started small. Questions to her assistants about missing files, whispers with contacts who might know, cross-referencing details Athena had inadvertently mentioned, a childhood town, a last name, a hint of education. It was all subtle, hidden in the normal routines of her life, invisible to anyone who didn't know where to look. Then one afternoon, Sophia quietly slipped into the study, a folder in hand, and called Athena softly. "Liza, can we talk?" Athena's fingers froze in the baby's blanket, her body rigid. I'm busy," she murmured, tone defensive, not meeting Sophia's eyes. Sophia knelt down slowly, keeping her gaze soft, neutral, but unwavering. "It's important. Just sit with me for a moment." Reluctantly, Athena settled on the couch, clutching her daughter protectively, eyes flicking to the folder on the table. Sophia waited a heartbeat, then slid it across to her. Athena's gaze fell on the folder. Her hands shook slightly as she lifted the top sheet, scanning names, addresses, photographs. Her past, the family she had lost, the wealth, the legacy, the cattle ranch, the man who had tried to trap her into signing everything away, stared back at her. The life she thought was gone forever was suddenly staring her in the face. "You," Athena whispered, voice trembling, eyes wide. You found all this out?" Sophia's expression softened, but there was firmness in her tone. "I did. I wanted to understand you, Liza. Not to judge you, not to control you, but to know who you are so I could help you, and her." She nodded toward the baby. "You didn't ask for this life, but I want you to know you don't have to face it alone." Athena's hands clenched the folder, her knuckles white. You had no right. None. How could you go through this? My life. My past? My daughter's future." Sophia started, but Athena cut her off, rising to her feet, eyes blazing with a storm of anger, betrayal, and fear. "You think I need saving? You think I need your research, your probing? I am not some lost child to be uncovered and wrapped in someone else's idea of safety." Athena's voice cracked, tears welling, threatening to spill over. "You don't get to touch this. Not my past, not her life, not me." Sophia remained seated, calm, carefully not advancing, letting Athena's fury ebb and flow. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said softly, almost painfully. "I just wanted to understand. To be able to help." Athena turned away, wrapping the baby closer, shaking. "Help," she whispered, almost to herself. "You've taken my life, Sophia. You've taken what little control I had left." Silence fell. Sophia didn't move. She let Athena have the moment, knowing that walls as high as these could only be met with patience, not force. Hours passed. Athena sat on the floor, rocking her daughter, staring at the fire, silent but trembling. Sophia quietly left the room, leaving her be, leaving the space Athena demanded. Outside, the city continued indifferent. Inside, Athena wrestled with the past that had been forced into her present, with the anger that burned at Sophia's intrusion, and with the fragile, stubborn thread of trust that was now fraying under the weight of revelation. Sophia knew the road ahead would be long. Trust once broken was slow to mend. But she also knew that in exposing Athena's past, gently, with care, she had given her the truth, and sometimes truth, as sharp and painful as it was, could also be the first step toward healing. Chapter 8: Fractured Trust. The sunlight was weaker today, filtered through clouds that hung low over the brownstone, casting the room in muted gray. Athena sat at the study table, the folder Sophia had left in front of her like a silent judge. Her daughter slept in the crib nearby, oblivious to the storm brewing between the two women. Athena opened the folder again, her hands trembling slightly. Photographs, documents, old letters, fragments of a life she could no longer remember. Names she didn't recognize. Addresses that should have been familiar but felt like a foreign language. Every page was a puzzle she could not piece together, every fact a dagger twisting in her chest. Why can't I remember?" she whispered to herself, voice raw. The room seemed to close in, the weight of years of loss pressing against her ribs. The baby stirred, a soft coo breaking the silence, and Athena's grip on the folder faltered. Sophia's voice came then, careful, deliberate, from the doorway. "Liza, I know this is a lot. I didn't want to overwhelm you." Athena's eyes snapped up, tears streaking her cheeks. "Overwhelm me? Sophia, you went into my life. My past. My daughter's future. You had no right." Sophia stepped closer, keeping her hands raised, neutral, as if to show Athena she meant no harm. "I understand why you're angry. I understand that it feels like an intrusion. But I didn't do it for myself, I did it so I could protect both of you. I needed to know who you were, Eliza. I needed to know if someone could hurt you, if you could be safe here." Athena's chest heaved, the folder slipping to the table. "Safe," she repeated, voice breaking. "You think knowing the names, the history, the ranch, the money, all that makes me safe? Safe is nothing. Safe is not the streets, safe is not everything I lost." Sophia's gaze softened, but her voice remained firm. "I can't undo what happened. I can't bring back the life you lost, Liza. But I can be here now. I can help you, help her. You don't have to face this alone anymore." Athena's hands clenched her knees, her jaw tight, her eyes flicking between Sophia and the folder, as if each glance could decide the fate of her fragile trust. I don't know if I can believe you. I don't know if I can remember anything at all, and now this. I feel like I'm falling into something I can't control." Sophia moved slightly closer, careful not to pressure her voice a whisper yet edged with quiet determination. "Then don't try to control it. Don't try to remember it all at once. Let it come when it comes. I'll wait. I'll stay. I'll keep her safe." Athena's gaze drifted to her daughter, sleeping peacefully, the soft rise and fall of her chest a small island of calm in the storm. Her tears flowed freely now, the bottled-up grief, rage, fear, and helplessness spilling over. I can't." Sophia didn't speak. She simply allowed Athena to let the emotions pour out, to fall apart in a room that was finally safe enough for her to do so. The anger, the disbelief, the fractured trust, it was all valid. And Sophia knew that healing would only come when Athena processed it at her own pace, in her own way. Hours passed. Athena stayed at the table, occasionally glancing at the folder, sometimes flipping through it, sometimes closing her eyes, tears staining her cheeks. Sophia remained in the room, quiet but present, a steadfast shadow of patience and care. Finally, Athena spoke again, voice barely above a whisper. I don't know who I am, or what I was, or what I could have been. And now I don't even know if I can trust anyone." Sophia nodded slowly, her expression solemn. "I know. And that's fair. You have every right to feel that way. I only ask that you let me be here. And when you're ready, I'll help you piece it together. Not for me, not for anyone else, for you, and for her. Athena's hands clenched the edge of the table. She wanted to scream, to push, to retreat. But deep down, a flicker of something, hope, perhaps, or exhaustion, made her pause. She didn't reach for Sophia. She didn't trust her yet. But she also didn't push her away entirely. For now, that fragile line, that delicate balance between fury and need, was enough. And Sophia, patient and unyielding, allowed her the space to exist in that liminal place, knowing that tomorrow, or the day after, Athena might let just a little more of her guard down. Chapter 9: First Steps Toward Understanding. The morning light spilled softly into the room, brushing against the pale walls and the slumbering figure of Athena's daughter. Athena herself sat on the edge of the couch, clutching a blanket to her chest, staring at the folder Sophia had left open yesterday. Her mind was a swirl of fragmented memories, anger, and the desperate need for answers. Sophia entered, carrying a tray with breakfast, warm tea, toast, and soft scrambled eggs. She placed it gently on the low table, careful not to startle Athena. Athena's eyes flicked up, wary. I'm hungry," she murmured, voice tight. Sophia nodded, retreating slightly to give her space. "Then eat. I'll be right here if you need me." Athena picked at the food, mechanically, more to stave off hunger than out of appetite. Her mind raced with the folder's contents, her family, her father's legacy, the ranch, and the overwhelming realization that her life had once been different. That someone, Sophia, had unearthed it all without asking. Finally, after a long, tense silence, Athena spoke. Her voice was cautious, testing the waters. Why did you do it? Dig into my life." Sophia took a careful step closer, keeping her hands visible, her tone soft but firm. "Because I needed to know who you are, so I could protect you." Protect her. I didn't do it for me, Liza. I did it because someone as small and fragile as she is deserves safety. And so do you. Athena's lips trembled, and she looked away, refusing to meet Sophia's gaze. Small and fragile? You think I'm small and fragile? No, Sophia said gently. I know you're strong. I can see it in how you've survived. In everything you've endured. But even the strongest people can't face everything alone, Liza. Not without help. Athena's hands clenched the blanket tighter. I don't know if I can trust you. You've crossed a line. I can't just hand myself to someone I barely know, not after everything. Sophia knelt slowly beside her, careful to stay at Athena's level, careful not to overwhelm. I don't want you to trust me blindly. I only want you to see that I am here. I won't leave. I won't hurt you. I'll answer any question, any doubt, any fear you have, as long as you're willing to ask. Athena's throat tightened, and she swallowed hard. For the first time since waking in Sophia's house, she felt a flicker of curiosity mixed with fear. She wanted answers, yes, but at what cost? And could she bear the truth of who she had been, what she had lost, and what she had survived? Her eyes drifted to the baby, sleeping peacefully in the crib. Her daughter, her anchor, her reason to face the fractured pieces of herself. Athena's voice broke slightly as she asked the question that had haunted her for months. Who am I? Who was I before all this? Sophia's gaze softened, but her tone was honest, unflinching. You were Athena Valeria, daughter of Gustav Valeria. You were a bright, determined young woman, co-owner of your family's ranch, loved and respected. You had plans, dreams, a life that was stolen from you. Athena's breath hitched, tears pricking her eyes. And now, she whispered, voice barely audible. Now, Sophia said carefully, you are here. You are alive. You have your daughter. And slowly, you will rebuild. Not as who you were, but as who you choose to be. And I will be here if you let me. Athena looked at her, searching for any sign of deception, of manipulation, anything that would give her reason to turn away. But all she saw was patience, sincerity, and a steady determination that mirrored her own will to survive. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Athena whispered, almost to herself, I don't know if I can forgive you, or even trust you yet. But Maybe I can try. Sophia's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. That's all I ask. Just try. At your own pace. I'll wait. Athena nodded slowly, allowing herself to breathe for the first time in days. Trust would come slowly, painfully, in fits and starts. But for the first time, she felt that it was possible. And for the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future, small, fragile, but hers. Chapter 10: Testing Boundaries. The evening sun slanted through the tall windows, painting the study in warm, golden hues. Athena sat in the armchair, her daughter asleep in a bassinet beside her, the soft rhythmic breathing a gentle counterpoint to the storm of her thoughts. Sophia entered, carrying a stack of files she had been sorting, harmless work, a veil for her true mission, patience, observation, and subtle guidance. She noted Athena's posture, the tension in her shoulders, the way her gaze flicked to the baby and back to the shadows on the wall. "You've been quiet today," Sophia said softly, perching on the edge of the desk. "Thinking." Athena's hands clenched the armrests. "Always." Her voice was low, cautious. "Thinking about what? What you showed me." "About everything." Sophia nodded, giving her space, but keeping her presence steady. "And?" Athena let out a bitter laugh, more a rasp of emotion than humor. "And I don't know what to do with it. I feel fragmented, angry, confused. And every time I try to remember, every time I try to think of who I was, it's like grasping smoke. It slips through my fingers." Sophia remained silent, letting her words hang, allowing Athena to wrestle with her own emotions. "I need to know," Athena finally said, her voice cracking. "I need details. The ranch. My father. The money. Everyone, who I was." Sophia studied her, wary of pushing too far but recognizing the inevitability. "You want facts," she said slowly. "Not stories. Not comfort. The truth." Athena nodded. I can't handle lies right now. I need the truth, even if it hurts." Sophia hesitated, then gently began. "You were Athena Valeria, daughter of Gustav Valeria, who built Valentia Pride, one of the largest cattle operations in the region. You were smart, capable, determined, always ready to step into responsibility. But after your father passed, things fell apart quickly. There were debts, people trying to take advantage." Athena's joy tightened. "And I tried. I did everything I could. I saved what I could, yes." Her voice rose slightly, tinged with frustration and grief. "But it wasn't enough." "And then, what?" Sophia's expression softened, careful, empathetic. "You collapsed. Physically, mentally, emotionally. After all that pressure, the grief, the betrayal, you couldn't function. You woke in a hospital, and nothing made sense anymore. You had no memory. You couldn't reclaim what was lost." Athena's hands trembled, gripping the armchair. "And then, I ended up there." Her voice was a whisper, broken. "On the streets. With no one. No identity." And then, she faltered, the last words catching in her throat. Sophia's heart clenched. "And then you survived. You fought for every day, every meal, every moment. And you carried her through it. You did not give up, Athena. That strength, it's what brought you here." Athena's breath caught. She felt exposed, raw, yet a flicker of recognition sparked in her chest. "And you just found me?" Her voice was barely audible. "Yes, I did," Sophia said gently. "I brought you here. I made sure you were safe when I could. I didn't want to intrude, but I also couldn't let you, or her, be vulnerable. Not again." Athena's eyes narrowed. "You watched me." Her voice was sharp now, anger mingling with fear. "You invaded my life." "I did," Sophia admitted, steady, unflinching. "But it was never for power, never for control. Only for protection. I wanted to understand, so I could help you reclaim what is yours, even if you couldn't see it yet." Athena's fists relaxed slightly, though her jaw remained tight. She looked away, struggling with the complex mix of emotions, gratitude, anger, vulnerability, mistrust. I don't know if I can ever forgive you." Or trust you. Sophia nodded, her expression unwavering. I understand. I only ask, let me stay. Let me help her and you in whatever way you need. And if you can't, I'll wait. I'll wait as long as it takes. Athena's gaze softened just slightly, not meeting Sophia's fully, but acknowledging the offer. We'll see, she whispered. We'll see if it's even possible. Sophia let her have the space, knowing that every word, every gesture, every quiet moment counted toward rebuilding trust. Outside, the city hummed, indifferent. Inside, the fragile beginnings of understanding, tentative, hesitant, took root. And for Athena, that small spark of possibility, though buried under anger and pain, was the first step toward reclaiming herself. Chapter 11: Threads of Memory. The soft afternoon light filtered through the tall windows, catching dust motes that danced lazily in the still air. Athena sat cross-legged on the rug, her daughter nestled safely against her chest, the baby's rhythmic coos and small movements grounding her in a fragile present. Sophia entered quietly, a warm cup of tea in her hands, pausing at the threshold as she watched Athena cradle the little life she had fought so hard to protect. For a moment, she said nothing, letting the quiet hum of the house fill the space between them. Finally, she spoke, her voice gentle, cautious. She's beautiful, Sophia said, nodding toward the baby. You've named her, yet? Athena's fingers tightened slightly around the baby. She looked down at the tiny face, her lips pressed together in thought. I haven't. I want it to fit. Somehow. Sophia took a slow step closer, settling onto the rug beside her, careful not to crowd her. She's yours. And you're hers. Maybe if we start small, we can work out a name together. Something that feels right to both of you. Athena's gaze lingered on her daughter, and a flicker of a memory surfaced, a soft lullaby her mother used to hum, the feel of tiny fingers wrapped around her own, a sense of warmth and safety she hadn't known in months. She shook her head slightly, trying to dismiss the feeling, but it left a knot of longing in her chest. She's strong, Athena murmured, almost to herself. Even now, just a few months old, and she's strong. Sophia reached out, careful to touch only the blanket draped over the baby. She's resilient because she comes from a resilient mother, she said softly. And she's lucky to have you. Athena's lips trembled, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel both the weight of the past and the fragile hope of now. I don't remember everything, she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. I see flashes sometimes. Faces, smells, sounds. But it's broken. Pieces don't fit. Sophia's expression softened, a quiet understanding in her eyes. That's okay, she said gently. You don't have to remember it all at once. Not today. You'll get there in your own time. Athena let the baby shift in her arms, brushing a small hand against her own cheek. The touch sparked something deep inside, a memory of being held, of protection, of love, and she felt her heart ache with both loss and hope. She reminds me of someone, Athena whispered, eyes unfocused. I can't place it, but it's familiar. Something warm. Something safe. Sophia leaned closer, careful, patient. That's a start, she said softly. Your memory is coming back in threads, Liza. Little by little. You just have to let it flow. Don't force it. Athena nodded slowly, letting out a shaky breath. I want to remember, she admitted. I want to know who I was. Who I am. Who we are now. Sophia smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and pride. Then we'll take it one step at a time, she said. Together. And I'll be here for both of you. Athena's gaze shifted back to her daughter, whose tiny coos and gentle movements seemed to pull at the edges of her fractured memory. For the first time in months, she felt something close to hope, a fragile, trembling hope that maybe, with care, patience, and time, she could piece together the fragments of her life and find herself again. Chapter 12: Fragments Stirring. The late afternoon sun had softened into a golden haze as Athena sat by the window, her daughter nestled in her lap, eyes fluttering in sleep. The soft hum of the city outside contrasted sharply with the silence of the room, a quiet sanctuary from months of chaos and fear. Sophia entered quietly, holding a small, worn music box she had found among Athena's belongings, things she had quietly kept and preserved, hoping someday they might trigger something familiar. She placed it on the table nearby and wound it slowly. A delicate, tinkling melody filled the room, almost fragile in its simplicity. Athena's head jerked slightly at the sound, her hands tightening instinctively around the baby. The melody, soft, haunting, seemed to resonate deep within her chest. Her breath hitched as a sudden flash struck, a warm sunlit field, a younger version of herself, laughing as she chased a calf across the golden grass. A familiar scent of hay and leather. A voice, her father's, calling her name. "Athena, careful now." Tears sprang unbidden to her eyes, and she gasped, almost as if drowning in memory. I remember," she whispered, voice trembling. I see it." Sophia moved closer, careful not to startle her. "What do you see?" she asked softly, voice calm, patient, grounding. Athena's hands shook as she traced her daughter's tiny fingers, almost as if trying to anchor herself. "Fields, sunshine, my father, the ranch. I can feel it, the smell, the wind, and I'm laughing. I'm happy. I remember being happy." Her chest heaved, the wave of memory both comforting and overwhelming. Sophia stayed silent, letting her unravel, letting the fragments of memory come and go without pressure. "You're safe now," she murmured. "And she's safe too." Athena shook her head, frustrated and torn. "Why can't I remember everything? Why is it just fragments?" Her voice broke, the weight of lost time pressing down on her. Why did I have to forget? Everything I loved, everything I was, gone. Just gone. Sophia reached out tentatively, her hand hovering near Athena's shoulder. "Memory doesn't work in neat packages," she said softly. "It comes in pieces, sometimes painful, sometimes sweet. You can't control it, but you can embrace what comes. One piece at a time." Athena's eyes met Sophia's, a mixture of vulnerability and stubborn defiance in their depths. "And you've seen me like this. You've watched me while I was broken." "Yes," Sophia admitted, her tone steady. "I watched because I cared. Because I had to know you were safe. And now, I'm here to help you pick up the pieces. To help you find yourself again. But only if you want me to." Athena let out a long, shuddering breath. The memory flash had drained her, but it had also given her a taste of something she had thought lost forever herself. She looked down at her daughter, whose small, trusting eyes blinked up at her, and felt a spark of fierce determination. I want to remember," she whispered, more firmly this time. "I want to know. But it's hard. So much lost. And I don't know if I can handle it all." Sophia gave her a small, reassuring smile. "Then we take it slow. No rush. You don't have to handle it all at once. One memory, one day, one step at a time." Athena nodded, holding her daughter tighter, the warmth of her little body grounding her. For the first time in months, she allowed herself a flicker of hope, fragile, trembling, but real. And for the first time, she began to see a path forward, one small, painful, and beautiful step at a time. Chapter 13: Questions and Shadows. The morning sunlight spilled into the study, painting golden rectangles across the polished floor. Athena sat at the edge of the desk, her daughter asleep in the bassinet nearby. Her hands absent-mindedly traced the rim of her mug, steam curling into the air, while her mind raced. Sophia entered, carrying a neatly folded blanket and a small stack of baby clothes. She paused when she saw Athena's intent expression. "You look thoughtful," she said softly, setting the items down. Athena's eyes flicked up, sharp and searching. I need to know. What happened to me while I couldn't remember?" Sophia knelt beside her, careful to meet her gaze without overwhelming. "You were lost, Liza. Drifting, unsure. You had no memory of yourself, no home, no support. And yet, you carried her. Protected her. Somehow you survived. Athena flinched at the words. I don't remember any of it, she whispered, voice tight with frustration. I see glimpses, shadows of something, some feeling, some smell, some touch, but it slips away before I can hold it. Sophia nodded, understanding. It's going to be like that. Pieces first, whole later. You don't need all the answers right now. But she hesitated, then continued gently. You asked. I'll tell you what I know. Athena's hands gripped the edge of the desk. Yes, please. I have to know. Sophia took a deep breath. After you collapsed, you were in the hospital for several weeks. You had no memory, barely knew who you were. When you were released, you had no family support. You ended up on the streets. And it was then you were attacked. That's when you became pregnant. You tried to terminate it, but you couldn't. Something inside you wouldn't let you. Athena's chest tightened. Her breath caught, and she stared at Sophia, the weight of the revelation pressing down. Anne, I survived, she asked, voice barely above a whisper. Yes, Sophia said firmly. You survived because you are stronger than anyone gave you credit for. And when I found you, you were almost gone. Cold, hungry, exhausted. And yet you still had her. Athena's hands shook as fragments stirred, a memory of rain on her hair, the baby wailing in her arms, the desperation of trying to find shelter. She swallowed hard, eyes filling with tears. I remember. The rain, the cold, trying to hold her, not letting go. Sophia's expression softened, but her voice stayed steady. You didn't let go. And that's what matters. That's why she's alive. That's why you're here. Athena bowed her head, tears spilling freely. Anne, I don't even know her name. You'll choose, Sophia said gently. You get to name her. That's yours. That's the first piece of control you've had in a long time. Athena looked down at the sleeping baby, brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead. The fragments of memory swirled fear, despair, but also fleeting warmth, a sense of love she hadn't thought she could feel again. She inhaled sharply, determination threading through the uncertainty. I want to remember, she whispered, her voice steadier now. I want to know everything. About me, about her, about us. Sophia reached out and placed a steadying hand on Athena's shoulder. And you will. One day, one piece at a time. You're not alone anymore. And neither is she. Athena closed her eyes for a moment, letting the words sink in, the baby's soft breathing grounding her. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to feel something close to hope, tentative, fragile, but real. The path forward would be slow, painful, and uncertain, but she could begin to walk it. Chapter 14: Echoes of the Past. The kitchen smelled of warm bread and brewing coffee, a rare sense of normalcy in a life that had been anything but. Athena sat at the counter, her daughter cooing softly in her carrier, while Sophia prepared breakfast nearby. The sound of a whistling kettle and the clink of porcelain cups struck something deep inside Athena, a faint, almost ghostly recognition, like a door creaking open in a long-forgotten hall. Her stomach tightened, and a flicker of unease passed over her features. Sophia noticed immediately. You're quiet this morning, she said, her voice steady but attentive. Something's on your mind? Athena shook her head, but her fingers trembled around the mug she held. I think. I remember this sound, she whispered. The whistling, it's familiar. I feel something. Sophia set the cup down and knelt beside her. Tell me what you feel, she urged softly. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. Athena's chest tightened as fragments began to surface, a small kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window, the smell of coffee, a younger version of herself laughing with someone whose face she could not quite see. Then a sudden, harsh cut, fear, panic, a door slamming, a shadow of violence, the desperate need to protect a small life. She gasped, clutching her chest, the baby stirring in alarm. No, not now. I can't. Sophia moved instinctively, placing a hand on her back, steadying her. You can, Liza. Breathe. You're safe. You're here. None of that can hurt you now. Athena's hands shook as tears streaked down her face. I remember. The cold, the streets, trying to run, trying to hold her, not knowing if I'd survive. Her voice cracked with anguish. And then, nothing. Nothing at all. Just lost. Sophia's heart ached at the raw pain spilling from her, but she kept her voice calm, even anchoring. You survived, Liza. You protected her. You kept her safe. And now you're here. That's what matters. Athena shook her head violently, frustration and grief tangled in her movements. I don't want to remember it. I don't want to feel that fear again. I want my life, my memories, my baby, my home, everything I lost. Sophia softened her tone, kneeling fully beside her and taking Athena's hands in her own. You have her, Liza. You have her, and you have me. And you have the chance to reclaim everything else slowly, step by step. You're not alone in this. Athena's body sagged, the weight of months and fragments pressing down. Her tears fell freely now, hot and unrelenting, as the baby cooed softly, reaching tiny hands toward her face. The contact, gentle, innocent, drew a shaky breath from her, grounding her to the present. I want to remember, Athena whispered, voice raw and trembling. But it hurts so much. Sophia brushed a damp strand of hair from her face. I know it does. Memory can be cruel, but it can also be healing. And you won't face it alone. Not ever. Athena's eyes lifted to Sophia's, a mixture of fear, trust, and fragile hope in the storm within her. You really mean that? Sophia's gaze was unwavering, steady. Every word, she said. We'll face it together. You, me, and her. She nodded toward the sleeping baby, now stirring in its carrier. Athena exhaled slowly, clutching her daughter close, letting the warmth of both lives fill the void memory had left. For the first time, amidst the echoes of fear and loss, a sliver of clarity emerged. She could face her past, with Sophia by her side, and begin the painstaking journey back to herself. Chapter 15: Mirrors and Truths. Athena sat cross-legged on the living room floor, the laptop balanced on her knees. The baby slept in her carrier beside her, soft breaths rising and falling like a fragile rhythm against the quiet of the house. Sophia had left for a few hours to attend meetings, leaving Athena with a sense of both freedom and trepidation. The first thing she did was search for Valencia Ranch, her family's legacy, the place she had once thought she would inherit. Articles, financial reports, and social media posts flooded the screen. Her eyes scanned the words, Valencia Ranch struggles, debts mounting, young heiress faces impossible odds. Images of herself, a younger Athena, confident in a crisp blouse, smiling alongside her father, sparked something in her chest. A memory surfaced, running across golden fields, wind tearing through her hair, the smell of hay and leather, her father's voice calling out her name. She pressed her palm to the desk, as if trying to hold the memory steady, letting the ache of loss settle deep in her chest. She scrolled further, searching for anything about herself, about her family, about the life she had lost. Then a link caught her eye, Sofia Varga, Manhattan's ruthless CEO. Athena hesitated. Her fingers trembled over the mouse as she clicked. Headlines screamed, Varga International's cold-hearted billionaire, the woman who runs Manhattan, no-nonsense CEO, leaves no room for weakness. Videos showed Sophia in boardrooms, sharp suits, eyes calculating, voice firm. She saw the poise, the control, the perfection, and for a moment, a pang of fear and respect. But then she remembered what she had seen these past weeks. Sophia bending down to adjust the baby's blanket, softly humming while rocking her daughter, whispering reassuring words to the tiny human Athena had fought to protect. She remembered the gentle patience, the warmth that seeped into the house like sunlight. The contradiction twisted inside her. The ruthless CEO from the media was nothing like the woman she had watched care for her child and herself. Athena's breath hitched. The fragments of her own past intertwined with this new reality, a strange mixture of fear, gratitude, and curiosity. She typed Sophia's name into another search bar, scanning interviews, press releases, business profiles, everything. She saw the sharpness, yes, but also flashes of intelligence, strategic brilliance, and charisma. Yet what mattered most to Athena were the quiet moments that no media outlet would ever capture. The way Sophia had held her daughter, the way she had waited while Athena slept, the way she had remained calm when Athena's memory surged. And her emotions overflowed. A sudden wave of clarity washed over Athena. The woman everyone called cold was fiercely protective, deeply observant, and quietly kind. The image the world projected was only a mask. The Sophia she had seen in the living room, in the nursery, in moments of stillness, that Sophia was real. And Athena felt something she hadn't felt in months, the stirrings of trust. Her fingers paused over the keyboard. Another memory flickered, a fragment she hadn't noticed before. Sophia handing her a small music box, the melody unlocking a piece of herself she had buried, the warmth of being watched over without judgment. Her chest ached, torn between disbelief, relief, and a growing desire to understand this woman who had stepped into her fractured life and stayed. She closed the laptop slowly and turned toward the bassinet. The baby stirred, blinking up at her with wide, trusting eyes. Athena's hands shook as she brushed her daughter's hair back. "I will figure it out," she whispered. "I will remember, and I will understand everything. But for now, I can see some truth. Not the headlines, not the world, just you, Sophia. Just you." The moment hung in the quiet room, a fragile, flickering acknowledgement that the path forward would be painful, slow, and uncertain, but that Athena was beginning, finally, to step onto it with eyes open, even if the pieces were still scattered. Chapter 16: Fractured Trust. The late afternoon sunlight slanted through the tall windows of the living room, casting long, warm shadows across the polished floor. Athena sat on the edge of the sofa, her daughter asleep in her lap, a soft blanket draped over both of them. She stared into the quiet, into the baby's small, peaceful face, and felt the ache of months lost, the weight of everything she could not remember. Sophia entered, carrying a tray with tea and a small plate of food. Athena's gaze followed her, sharp and searching. "You do this a lot, don't you?" she asked quietly, voice even but edged with suspicion. "Helping people you don't know, stepping into their lives." Sophia set the tray down gently, kneeling beside the sofa. Her eyes met Athena's, unflinching. "I do what needs to be done," she said softly. "Sometimes it's about the person. Sometimes it's about protecting someone who can't protect themselves." Athena's fingers tightened on the baby's blanket. "And me? You stepped in for me." Her voice cracked slightly. "For a stranger. Someone you didn't even know." "Why?" Sophia took a deep breath, choosing her words with care. "Because I saw you and her," she said, nodding toward the baby. "And I couldn't let anything happen to either of you. No matter the circumstances, no matter the world." Athena's lips pressed into a thin line, eyes narrowing as fragments of memory pressed forward. The alley, the rain, the cold, her own trembling hands protecting her child. A flicker of anger rose, sharp and bitter. "You don't understand. You don't know what it's like to be abandoned. To have everything ripped away and be left, helpless." Sophia placed a steady hand on Athena's arm, gentle but firm. "I may not have lived your life, Liza. But I see it. I see the pain. And I see the strength you carried anyway." Athena pulled back slightly, tears brimming in her eyes. I don't even know who I am anymore. I lost myself. I lost everything. And I hate that I had to rely on someone else to survive." Sophia's hand didn't waver. "You survived, despite everything. You kept her alive. That is not weakness. That is strength. That is who you are, even if you can't see it yet." Athena's breath hitched, the mixture of frustration, gratitude, and vulnerability battling inside her. Her daughter stirred and gurgled softly, a tiny hand reaching up toward her mother's face. Athena's arms tightened instinctively, the moment grounding her. You're not like what everyone says," Athena murmured, voice barely audible. "The headlines, the media, They make you out to be ruthless, cold, untouchable. But what I've seen, the way you are with her, with me, it's different. You're real. Sophia's lips curved in a small, rare smile. People see what they want to see, Liza. The world rarely sees the whole picture. But what matters is here, in this room. What matters is now and what we do with it. Athena nodded slowly, letting the words settle. Her daughter's soft breathing reminded her of the fragility and preciousness of life, the life she had fought so hard to protect, and the woman who had quietly become her anchor. I don't know if I can. Trust again, Athena admitted, voice trembling. I don't even know if I can trust myself. Sophia's gaze softened, steady and unwavering. Then we start small. One day at a time. You and her, and me. No pressure, no rush. We rebuild what's been broken. Together. Athena looked down at her daughter, then back at Sophia. The anger, grief, and confusion were still there, simmering beneath the surface, but so was the fragile spark of hope, hope that perhaps, slowly, trust could grow again, and that the fractured pieces of her life could begin to fit together once more. Chapter 17: Shadows of the Past. The next morning, the sunlight streamed in through the tall windows, casting a warm glow on the polished floors of Sophia's brownstone. Athena sat at the kitchen table, laptop open before her, the baby cooing softly in her carrier beside her. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitant at first, then slowly began searching. Valencia Ranch Archives, Valeria Family History, Gustav Valeria Obituary. Images, documents, and articles began to pile up on the screen. Athena's eyes widened as photographs of herself as a child appeared, small and smiling, running across the ranch fields, golden hair catching the sun, laughter echoing faintly in her memory. She pressed her palm against the desk as though trying to hold on to something tangible, but the memory slipped just beyond her reach. Then came another image, a teenage Athena standing beside her father, pride radiating from his face as he handed her the reins of a small herd. A fleeting memory flared, the smell of hay and leather, the warmth of sunlight on her skin, her father's deep, steady voice. She could almost hear him saying, "You are ready, Athena. You can handle this." Her chest tightened. The warmth of those memories clashed sharply with the cold, desperate nights she had endured on the streets, the fear that had haunted her when she didn't even recognize her own reflection. Tears threatened, and she had to take a shaky breath to steady herself. The door opened suddenly, startling her. She quickly closed the laptop and stood, adjusting her daughter's blanket. Sophia entered moments later, carrying a tray of breakfast with a small smile. "You've been busy," Sophia observed softly, setting the tray down. Athena's eyes flicked to her, hesitation and unease etched into every line of her face. I had to know," she murmured. "I need pieces. I need to see what's left of me, even if it hurts." Sophia nodded, silent for a moment. Then she said something that made Athena freeze. "Athena, you're reclaiming pieces of yourself, and I want you to know, you're safe here. You're Liza, and you're Athena Valeria, both. And you can be both at the same time." Athena's breath caught. The name, Athena Valeria, spoken aloud, carried weight, history, and a life she barely remembered. Her body tensed, the baby stirring against her chest, as if sensing the storm of emotion inside her. I can't," she whispered, voice trembling. "It's too much. That name, it's like a shadow I don't recognize, but I feel it too. Like it belongs to someone I should know, but I don't." Sophia reached out, steadying her with a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You do know her, Athena. She's still inside you. And the memories, the pain, it's part of her too. We don't run from it. We face it together." Athena's tears fell freely now, a mixture of grief, fear, and fragile recognition. I remember bits," she said softly. "Fields, my father, my mother's voice, the ranch, laughter, and then darkness. And I can't put it all together yet." Sophia's gaze was unwavering, patient, and full of quiet strength. "You will in time. And you won't be alone when you do. Not ever." Athena's fingers trembled as she brushed a tear from her cheek. The name Athena Valeria lingered in the air between them, heavy with history, with loss, with the life she had almost forgotten, and yet, for the first time in months, it also carried the faintest hint of hope. She looked down at her daughter, asleep in the soft morning light, and then back at Sophia, realizing that trust, like memory, would have to be rebuilt slowly, piece by piece. But perhaps, just perhaps, she was ready to start. Chapter 18: Fragments in the Mind. The afternoon light had softened to a gentle gold, spilling across the polished floors of Sophia's brownstone. Athena sat quietly on the sofa, her daughter asleep beside her in the carrier, small chest rising and falling rhythmically. Sophia perched on the arm of the sofa, calm and deliberate, her presence steady like an anchor in a storm. "I've been thinking," Sophia began softly, "about how we can help you, remember. Fully. Not just bits and pieces." Athena's eyes flicked up at her, wary. "How?" "There are professionals," Sophia said, "therapists trained in memory retrieval, some who use hypnosis. I can arrange everything. You won't be alone and you'll be in control at all times. You just need to be willing to try." Athena swallowed hard, the idea both terrifying and strangely inviting. Memories of the past, flashes of the ranch, her father's voice, even the cold, bitter nights on the streets rose and fell in her mind. She hesitated, fingers gripping the edge of the sofa. I don't know if I'm ready," she admitted, voice soft and quivering. Sophia's gaze softened, unwavering. "You don't have to be ready to remember everything all at once. Just start. Small steps. One fragment at a time. I'll be right here." Athena took a shaky breath and nodded, finally allowing a flicker of trust to rise. "Okay, I'll try." The first session was quiet and gentle. Athena lay on a reclined chair in a softly lit room, the hypnotist's voice calm, guiding and non-intrusive. Sophia sat nearby, hands folded in her lap, watching the small rise and fall of Athena's chest, grounding her. "Focus on your breathing," the therapist instructed. "With each breath, feel yourself drifting safely back to a memory. Any memory you can reach." Athena closed her eyes. Slowly, hazy images formed, golden fields stretching beneath a summer sun, the sound of laughter carried by wind, the warm scent of hay and leather. Her heart ached as fragments sharpened, her father calling her name, guiding her through the ranch, her mother's soft laughter echoing faintly. A sob escaped her lips. The therapist's voice remained steady. "It's okay. Let it come. You are safe here. You are in control." Sophia reached over, lightly brushing Athena's hair back, whispering, "I'm right here. You're safe." More memory surfaced, jumbled but vivid. A younger Athena running across the fields, a dog bounding beside her, the sound of horses' hooves on dirt paths, a winter morning, snow glinting on the roof of the ranch house, her father's coat heavy on his shoulders as he guided her hands to feed the animals. Athena gasped, clutching the blanket draped over her lap. Tears flowed freely. I remember, the ranch. I was happy. I was safe." Sophia squeezed her hand gently. "You are safe now, Athena. You will remember more in time. All in pieces if you need. But the fragments, they're yours again." The sessions continued over several days, each one peeling back layers of fog. Athena remembered her father's stern but kind words, her mother's gentle guidance, and the responsibilities she had once carried with pride. She remembered small details, like the scent of roses along the garden paths, the cold bite of winter mornings, and the sense of purpose she had felt running the ranch. Yet, intertwined with these memories, flashes of the streets, the fear, and the abuse surfaced as well. The contrast was jarring, raw, and overwhelming. Sophia remained by her side, steady, offering support without judgment. By the end of one session, Athena lay back, exhausted but with a sense of clarity she had not felt in months. She looked at Sophia, voice trembling with a mixture of gratitude and vulnerability. "Thank you for making me do this," she whispered. "For helping me face everything." Sophia's gray eyes softened. You did this yourself, Athena. I only offered a hand. The strength, that's all yours. Athena's gaze drifted to her daughter, then back to Sophia. Slowly, a fragile but undeniable spark of hope stirred within her. Memory, identity, trust, all fragile, all delicate, but all beginning to return. Chapter 19, Returning to Valencia Pride. The drive out of Manhattan was quiet, the city's towering skyline slowly giving way to rolling fields, golden sunlight glinting off distant barns and pastures. Athena sat in the passenger seat, her daughter in the baby seat in the back, eyes fixed on the passing landscape, heart pounding with a mixture of fear, anticipation, and longing. Sophia's hands rested lightly on the steering wheel, calm and steady. "We'll take it slow," she said softly. "You don't have to rush anything." Athena nodded, swallowing hard. The further they drove, the more memory stirred, faint flashes of wide-open fields, the smell of hay and earth, the sound of wind through the grass. Her chest tightened. "I remember this." "I do." When they arrived, the ranch spread out before them like a living memory. The main house stood proudly atop a gentle rise, the familiar silhouette of barns and corrals stretching across the property. Athena's breath caught. It's still here," she whispered, voice trembling. Sophia parked near the main entrance, turning to look at her. "It's yours, Athena. Every inch of it. And we'll take it one step at a time." Athena stepped out of the car, her bare fingers brushing against the soft blanket that held her daughter. The wind tugged at her hair, and for a moment she froze, overcome by a rush of sensations, the sun on her face, the distant clatter of horses, the sweet smell of roses from the garden beds her mother had once tended. She walked slowly toward the main house, each step stirring more vivid memories. Her father's voice echoed faintly in her mind. "Athena, this is your world now. Respect it. Care for it." She remembered the sound of his laughter when she had stumbled over a small calf, his hand steadying her as she fell. Tears blurred her vision. Sophia stayed beside her silently, letting Athena navigate her emotions, offering a hand when the memories became too overwhelming. "You don't have to carry everything alone," Sophia whispered. Athena's fingers grazed the old wooden fence as they walked past the corrals. Images surfaced, training horses, feeding the livestock, the pride she had once felt in managing the ranch. Then, darker memories emerged, too, the long nights of struggle on the streets, the fear and helplessness, the nights spent wondering if she could survive another hour. She sank to a bench near the barn, tears streaming freely. I was here, happy, and then, everything went wrong," she whispered, voice cracking. Sophia knelt beside her, offering gentle reassurance. "It's all part of your story, Athena. The happy, the painful, they made you who you are. And we can reclaim it all, piece by piece." Athena's hands clenched around the blanket. "I don't even know where to start." "You start with what you remember," Sophia said softly. "And I'll be here, guiding you, supporting you, helping you put it all back together." They entered the main house together, Athena stepping carefully through the familiar spaces that now felt foreign yet intimately hers. As she walked through the halls, memories returned in small bursts, a photograph on a mantel, the creak of a staircase, the scent of her mother's favorite flowers in the windowsill. Hours passed in this quiet reclamation. Sophia helped her touch, see, and remember. They spoke of the past, laughed at fleeting happy memories, and allowed grief for what was lost. Athena began writing notes, piecing together her life, reconnecting with a past she thought she had lost forever. That evening, Athena stood in the main hall, looking out at the fields stretching into the horizon. Her daughter stirred in her arms, tiny fingers clutching at her necklace, grounding her in the present. Sophia's hand rested on her shoulder, steady and unyielding. Athena exhaled, a shuddering breath of grief and hope. I think I'm starting to remember everything." Sophia's gaze was soft, unwavering. "You are. And together, we'll make sure nothing gets lost again." For the first time in months, Athena allowed herself to believe that reclaiming her life, piece by piece, was not only possible, it was already beginning. Chapter 20. Reclaiming Valencia Pride. The morning sun spilled over the horizon, painting the fields in warm gold. Athena stepped onto the porch of the main house, cradling her daughter, and inhaled deeply. The familiar scent of hay, earth, and flowers was comforting and disorienting all at once. Each breath seemed to pull pieces of her memory into sharper focus. Sophia followed closely, her presence calm and reassuring. "Take your time," she whispered. "There's no rush." Athena nodded, her eyes scanning the landscape, the barns, the paddocks, the distant cattle grazing lazily in the fields. A flicker of pride stirred in her chest, mingling with uncertainty. She had been here before, but now everything felt simultaneously hers and foreign. "We should see the staff," Sophia suggested. "They've been keeping the ranch running as best they could. It'll help you reconnect, understand what's been happening while you were away." Athena agreed reluctantly, her fingers brushing against the baby's soft blanket. The first encounter was quiet, tentative. The ranch manager, an older man named Emilio, bowed slightly when she approached. His eyes were cautious, respectful. "Miss Valeria," he said softly. "It's good to see you back." Athena blinked, memories flickering, his steady hand guiding her as a child, his calm voice stirring the chaos of the ranch. "It's good to be back," she said slowly. I want to understand everything that's been happening." Over the next few days, Athena walked the ranch, accompanied by Sophia and Emilio. She asked questions, touched the fences, checked on the animals, and revisited rooms of the house that stirred fragmented memories. Each step forward was careful and deliberate, the past and present entwined in her chest like a delicate dance. She spoke with the kitchen staff, the stable hands, and even the young apprentices. She listened to their stories of maintaining the ranch, of struggles they had faced without her guidance. Every interaction sparked more memories, her father's management style, her mother's attention to detail, her own pride in handling responsibilities. Yet, the shadows of her trauma lingered. Nights on the streets, the fear and helplessness she had endured surfaced unexpectedly. Sophia's presence remained steady, unwavering, a silent pillar of support. When Athena felt herself faltering, Sophia's hand on her back, or a soft whisper, "You're safe. You're in control," grounded her. By the end of the week, Athena stood in the main office, the familiar oak desk beneath her hands. She looked out over the land, the horizon stretching endlessly. The decision crystallized in her chest: she could reclaim this life. She could rebuild. "I want to do it," she said quietly, voice firm yet tinged with vulnerability. "I want to rebuild the ranch. Valencia Pride deserves to thrive again." Sophia smiled, a rare warmth in her gray eyes. "Then we'll start, Athena. Together. Step by step." Athena's gaze softened as she looked at her daughter asleep in her arms. "I can give her a future here, a life connected to my past, and stronger than the hardships I've endured." The weight of responsibility pressed down, but it was tempered with determination. The staff rallied around her, encouraged by her commitment and guided by Sophia's quiet support. Plans were drawn, priorities set, and slowly, the once dormant heartbeat of Valencia Pride began to stir. Athena, for the first time in months, felt a sense of purpose she had almost forgotten. She had survived the streets, reclaimed fragments of her identity, and now she was ready to rebuild her legacy carefully, intentionally, and with the people who mattered most by her side. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, Athena stood on the porch again, the field stretching before her. Sophia approached quietly, placing a hand over hers. "You did this," Sophia said softly. "Every step, every decision, it's all you." Athena nodded, a quiet smile brushing her lips. "Yes, but I couldn't have done it without you." Sophia's eyes softened, and for a heartbeat, the harsh world outside didn't exist. There was only trust, fragile and growing, and the sense that for the first time in a long while, Athena's life, her past, present, and future, could be hers again. Chapter 21. Reclaiming Authority. The morning air carried the crisp scent of hay and freshly turned soil. Athena walked through the main barn, her boots crunching softly against the gravel, her daughter bundled safely in a sling against her chest. Each step felt both foreign and intimately familiar, like touching a part of herself she had almost forgotten. Sophia followed quietly, her eyes scanning the staff bustling about, ensuring everything ran smoothly. She gave Athena space, but remained close enough that her presence was a constant reassurance. Athena paused by a pen of restless cattle, memories flickering, her father guiding her hands to feed them, the pride in her own voice as a child explaining care techniques to the ranch hands, laughter spilling across the fields. She inhaled deeply, letting the familiar smells and sounds ground her. "I want to start reorganizing the feed schedule," Athena said quietly, more to herself than to anyone else. Her voice carried a hint of authority, and a few staff glanced up, recognition in their eyes. "And the training rotations. Horses, especially the younger ones, need structured routines." Emilio, the ranch manager, nodded, a faint smile breaking through his cautious demeanor. "Of course, Miss Valeria. I'll prepare the schedules for your review." Athena's chest tightened at the sound of her real name spoken aloud in this space. It was more than a word, it was reclamation, a tether to who she had been and who she was becoming again. She allowed herself a small smile. "Thank you, Emilio. Let's take it one step at a time." Throughout the morning, Athena moved through the ranch methodically, reconnecting with every corner of her domain. She checked the barns, reviewed livestock records, and spoke with the kitchen staff about meal planning and supply logistics. Each interaction rekindled fragments of competence and pride she had long feared lost. Sophia remained nearby, observing quietly but stepping in when needed, offering guidance, suggesting strategies, and gently reminding Athena that she was in control. "Your way, Athena," Sophia would say softly. "You decide how this place operates." In a rare pause, Athena stepped aside to the small garden near the main house, watching her daughter's tiny hands brush against the soft petals of the roses. A memory rose sharply, her mother kneeling beside a garden bed, teaching her to prune carefully, explaining the delicate balance of life and care. Athena's throat tightened, tears threatening to spill. Sophia approached, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "It's okay to feel, Athena. The strength you're showing, it doesn't mean you have to shut it all off." Athena exhaled slowly, nodding. I think I can do this," she whispered. "I can take it back, piece by piece." By afternoon, she convened a brief meeting with the staff in the main office, asserting herself in her role. Her voice carried calm authority, her instructions clear. Staff who had once been wary now responded with respect, even subtle relief. Athena felt the spark of her former self return, not fully, but enough to realize she could rebuild, and rebuild well. As the day wound down, Athena found herself on the porch again, watching the sunset paint the fields in warm gold. Sophia joined her, silently handing her a cup of tea. Athena took it, eyes scanning the horizon, heart filled with tentative hope. "You've done more in one day than most would in a week," Sophia said softly. "And you're doing it while holding everything together, yourself, your daughter, your memories, all of it." Athena smiled faintly, sipping the tea, feeling the warmth spread through her chest. "It's not easy," she admitted. "But it feels right. Being here, taking back my life. I can feel who I am again, piece by piece." Sophia's gray eyes softened, and for the first time, Athena let herself glance at her fully, not as a guide or observer, but as someone who had anchored her through the storm. In that look, there was trust, gratitude, and a small, fragile opening, a beginning of something more than just professional support. And for Athena, that was a victory all on its own. Chapter 22: Perception and Reality. The morning light spilled across the office of Varga International, glass walls gleaming and sleek, cold steel furniture reflecting the sun's rays. Athena sat quietly in a corner of the boardroom, her daughter asleep in a stroller beside her. Today was different. Sophia had insisted Athena come with her to see the other side of her world. Athena's eyes followed Sophia as she moved through the office, every gesture precise, commanding. Staff bowed slightly in acknowledgement, emails pinged, and calls were answered without hesitation. The efficiency was intimidating. This was the face of the woman the media had painted, ruthless, unfeeling, and unstoppable. Yet, Athena couldn't reconcile that image with the Sophia she had come to know. The Sophia who had carried her through the alley, who held her daughter like she was her own, who whispered calm words when Athena's memories threatened to drown her. This Sophia was sharp, yes, calculating, but she was also quietly observant, protective, and deeply human. A staff member approached with a report, and Sophia's tone, though brisk, carried a careful warmth. She guided, corrected, and advised with a ruthlessness tempered by an underlying respect. Athena's chest tightened. She realized she had underestimated the complexity of the woman she had begun to trust. Later, in a private corner office, Sophia closed the door and gestured for Athena to sit. "I know you've seen the headlines," she said lightly, though her gray eyes held a sharp glint. "They like to call me cold, ruthless, heartless. It's easier for them to sell a story than to understand reality." Athena looked down at her daughter, then back at Sophia. "But the Sophia I know, that's not who I see." Her voice was quiet, tinged with awe and uncertainty. You cared. For me, for her." Sophia's lips curved slightly, a rare softness breaking through her stern exterior. "I do care, Athena. Don't mistake my ruthlessness at work for a lack of compassion here. You and your daughter, that's different." Athena's hands clenched slightly in her lap, a surge of emotion rising. She wanted to believe it, wanted to trust it, but a shadow of doubt lingered, a residue of trauma and caution. I want to believe that," she admitted, voice trembling. Sophia reached across the desk, lightly brushing Athena's hand with her fingertips. "Then start with this. What you see here is real. Outside, the world can misunderstand. But with me, there's no pretense." Athena's eyes searched Sophia's face, finding the truth beneath the veneer of CEO and reputation. It was a delicate truth, one that demanded patience, courage, and careful trust. And for the first time in months, Athena felt the stirring of something fragile and hopeful. She could trust again, even if only a little, even if only here in this room. The rest of the day passed with Athena observing Sophia's world, the meetings, the negotiations, the unyielding drive of a woman who had built an empire. Athena felt a mixture of admiration and apprehension, aware that her own journey was just beginning. The contrast between public persona and private reality was stark, and Athena realized that understanding and reclaiming trust, with Sophia, with herself, and with her daughter, would be just as complex as reclaiming her family legacy. That evening, back at the ranch, Athena watched the sun dip behind the fields, her daughter nestled against her chest. She whispered softly, almost to herself, maybe some truths are worth believing. Sophia joined her, silent but close, offering the same quiet strength she had been all along. And for Athena, that was enough for now. Chapter 23: First Steps in Rebuilding. The morning sun spilled over the rolling pastures of Valentia Pride, warming the crisp air. Athena stepped into the main barn, her boots clicking softly against the concrete floor. Her daughter was once again safely nestled in the sling against her chest, eyes wide and curious at the gentle movement around her. Athena paused, surveying the space, the stalls, the feed bins, the staff moving efficiently through their routines. The sight was grounding, a tangible reminder that her family legacy was still alive. She inhaled deeply, letting the familiar sense of hay and leather fill her lungs. Sophia followed at a respectful distance, her presence constant, unobtrusive, yet commanding in its own way. She allowed Athena the space to assert herself, stepping in only when guidance was needed. "Let's review the schedules," Athena said quietly, her voice firm but calm. Staff members looked up, surprised, yet attentive. "We'll adjust the feeding rotations for the younger livestock. And I want weekly check-ins on the health of the animals. Nothing falls through the cracks." Emilio, the ranch manager, nodded, a hint of pride in his expression. "Of course, Miss Valeria. I'll prepare the revised schedules for your review." As Athena moved through the barn, checking on the animals and conversing with the staff, fragments of memory surfaced: her father's instructions, the way he emphasized patience and care, the pride in her own younger voice explaining routines to the ranch hands. Each recollection strengthened her resolve, a quiet fire rekindled in her chest. Later, in the office, Athena sat with Emilio and the administrative staff, reviewing budgets, supply orders, and upcoming projects. Her decisions were measured, informed by instinct and memory, yet tempered by the humility of someone learning to trust herself again. Sophia observed from the doorway, arms crossed, a rare softness in her gray eyes. Watching Athena navigate her reclaimed role, Sophia felt a quiet admiration. She had seen Athena at her most vulnerable, yet here she was, steady, determined, and slowly finding her place again. After hours of work, Athena stepped onto the porch, the sun low on the horizon. Her daughter stirred, reaching tiny hands toward the fields. Athena knelt, letting the baby touch the soft grass, laughing softly at the sensation. Sophia approached, handing Athena a cup of tea. "You've done well today," she said, her voice calm, yet carrying the weight of her usual authority. "The staff respects you. The ranch feels your presence." Athena exhaled slowly, sipping the tea, letting warmth spread through her chest. "It feels right," she murmured. "Being here, making these decisions. I can feel myself returning, piece by piece." Sophia's eyes softened, a subtle acknowledgement of Athena's progress. "And you're not alone. Whatever you face, you don't have to face it by yourself." Athena looked at her, a mix of gratitude and tentative trust in her eyes. She wanted to believe it, wanted to lean on Sophia, yet the shadows of her past lingered, cautious and unyielding. Still, she allowed herself a small, fragile smile. "I'll try," she whispered. Sophia's lips curved faintly, approvingly. "That's all I ask." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Athena watched the fields bathed in golden light, her daughter asleep in her arms. The journey ahead was long, but for the first time in months, she felt the quiet pulse of hope and purpose. She was reclaiming her legacy, her identity, and slowly, the courage to trust again. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe and like this video and follow me for more stories. You are always welcome here, and leave me a comment or a thumbs up, just letting me know if you like the story and would like more, or is there perhaps an idea that you would like to share or let me write for you.